everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I have with me my friend Justine, who has very kindly agreed to do an immigrant interview with us. So do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, who you moved over with?
Yes, I moved over with my husband. He was the main applicant, and my 3 children. I've got very young kids, 10, 8 and a 3-year-old. So it was pretty intense, the big move,
Yeah.
but it was worth it. We've been here for 1.5 years now.
Okay.
Yeah, and I work as a teacher aide, and my husband works as a factory manager.
And how long between deciding like this is what we're going to do and actually arriving in New Zealand?
Oh, it literally took us 5 years to decide.
Wow. Oh, to decide. Okay.
To actually, well, I would say from deciding to making the big move. It was more like my husband and I are more talk than do.
Okay.
So yeah, so it took us 5 years until we decided to take the plunge and just do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from deciding on New Zealand, how long was that? So I'm assuming the 5 years was deciding to emigrate.
Yes.
So once you'd settled on New Zealand,
yeah.
How long did that process take?
Well, once we set on that, I think it took us a good 2 years. And I literally had the minute we had paid for an immigration advisor, I had literally started packing my bags. And this was it was a year before that my bags were all packed. My house was busy being packed, and my husband's like, we've still got about a year, maybe 2.
Yeah, it takes a while.
Yeah.
And when the decision was first floated, like we're going to immigrate, whose idea was that? And were you both on the same page, or did one of you have to convince the other?
I think we were both on the same page with that.
Okay.
We both decided on the whole immigration thing. At first we had different ideas on different countries we wanted to go to and eventually with doing a lot of research, we felt that New Zealand was the best fit country for us.
And you mentioned using an immigration agent?
Yes.
Okay, so that's not something that everybody does. Did you find that really helpful? Was it worth the money?
Yes, I actually feel that it was. I don't think we would have been able to do it without them.
Right.
You know, and they helped us a lot, and they answered all our questions we needed to, even if we messaged them at early hours in the morning because we were panicked about something silly. They were there for us. I know a lot of people don't use one. But we feel for our own sanity it was
worth
for the
it.
best. Yeah.
Where did you move from, your previous country, and where have you moved to in New Zealand? If you want to just say general area, that's fine, or if you want to say town, that's also fine.
Well, we came from Randfontein, Johannesburg.
In South Africa.
In South Africa, yes, sorry.
So I don't need to ask why you left.
No. Well, with a big population of 250,000 and mine dumps around you, we decided we need to see something different and cut it a bit shorter. So we actually didn't really choose on where we were going to live. We found where we're going to live due to the work that we got.
That's a tip that I usually mention to people. I have a Moving to New Zealand Facebook group, and I'll leave the links down below. A lot of people join and they say, which is the best area? And the answer is the area you can get a job, because that's usually what your visa is dependent on, is getting a job. So that's interesting to hear that you were just like, I'll go wherever the job is.
Yes, that's true.
So this is where the job was.
Yes,
South
so
Taranaki. Exactly.
So we've really made, the best of South Taranaki. We love it. And I love the whole fact that it's, well, because we live in Hawera, that the smaller town is just amazing. It's really nice.
So you've come from a city of, did you say 250,000 people,
yes,
to just under 10,000 people?
Yes.
So has that been a big adjustment?
It has actually been a big adjustment. It's been, it has been a massive adjustment for us. But to be honest, I love it. I love the quietness. I love the convenience of being able to walk to your nearest shop. My town is just up the road. It's 2 minutes up the road. And everything is close by in comparison to where, if you had to go from A to B back in where we lived, it'd take you a good 40 minutes, an hour to get from A to B.
I really like the community feel that kind
I
of
love
everyone
it.
knows everyone. And
I love that too.
Yeah.
You go walk into a shop and you bump into like 3 or 4 different friends, and then you go somewhere else and everyone knows everyone.
yeah.
I
so,
love it.
So you're planning on settling?
Oh
in this
yes,
area?
I like it. You know, my kids are in a good school. We're happy with that. I'm happy with my job and my husband. So, and I like the whole small town vibe. We've never really had something like this, so this is
That's
amazing.
good. I do usually say to immigrants or potential immigrants, be open to a second move. People get very hung up on, like I mentioned earlier, which area should we move to? Just go where the job is and be open to a second move. Moving countries is a big deal, and you can feel like you really just want to get that right, but don't close off the potential to move to another area. And if you're not happy in the area you first land in, it doesn't mean that moving to that new country isn't right for you. It may just mean that that area isn't right for you.
Yeah.
So there are things that you can do to change jobs even if your visa is dependent on that job. I will link here to an interview I did with an immigration consultant, and she addresses this issue in that video. So you mentioned earlier which visa you came on. Was it the skilled migrant?
Yes, we're on the skilled migrant visa. We got a 5-year visa, so we're at the moment busy with, well, we've applied for residency. Now it's the long
brilliant.
wait.
Oh yeah, with
Yes.
COVID, it's great.
Yes, it's the long
But
wait.
one of the things required for that visa is a job. So
Yes.
how was that job finding process? A lot of people get caught up in the, I need a visa to get a
Oh.
job, but I need a job to get a visa, and all that.
To be honest, it was incredibly hard. It was that catch where if you don't have a visa, you're not going to get a job. If you're not going to get a job, you're not going to get vice versa, exactly like you said. But through a lot of resource and late nights of going onto LinkedIn and all those job places,
Yeah.
we managed to find something, I wouldn't say pretty easy. It took us 2 years to find a job.
And during those 2 years, was it like constant job applications?
Constant.
Did you get many callbacks for interviews, or?
We did get a few, and because we weren't currently in New Zealand, or we didn't have a work visa, and a lot of companies in New Zealand don't understand that you need to get a job before a work visa, so that made it a very tricky thing. And then also one thing, they're like, you know, you have to have New Zealand experience, so it was tricky, it was hard, but it is doable with a lot of patience and, you know, persistence.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you guys took a while to get going, but once you got going, you stuck with it.
Yes.
And that's
the thing.
that's a tip for anyone, isn't it? Just
Yeah.
be persistent, keep your eye on your
Exactly.
dream, and keep going.
Yes, definitely.
So the job in question, was that on the skills shortage list?
Yes, it was.
So there's multiple skills shortage lists. There's long-term, regional, short-term. That's one
College.
of the things that's required to get the visa. Is it needs to, for the skilled migrant category, it needs to be on one of those lists. So
Yes.
at least that worked out for you guys.
It did. It really did. And that was one thing that we were stressed about, but luckily we got it and we're here now.
Yeah. So when you made the plan to move to New Zealand, you finally agreed on a country and you
Yeah.
thought, let's do this, and it's taking so long. During that time, did you actually visit New Zealand, or when you arrived here, was that the first time you'd seen it?
No, my husband actually came here to Wellington 2 years back for 4 months to look for work.
Okay, because that can help just to be in the country.
And he didn't find anything in that, but he came, but so he did it more also as an experience to see what New Zealand looks like. Are we going to fit in and stuff like that? So it was more like, you could say like a
Ricky.
yeah. And so he got a taste for it, and I only got a taste for all the videos. I used to sit and watch all your videos every single day.
So when you were doing all that research and you're watching videos and looking online and thinking this is a good fit for us, has it actually met your expectations coming here, or has
Oh,
it
yes.
actually been quite different? Was there any culture shock?
Well, there was a few little things that was a bit different and things like, you know, for example, like the one thing that you mentioned on one of your vlogs was tipping. That was a big shock for us. And another thing was, big shock for me was in South Africa, you don't have that self-service at a restaurant or coffee shop. You don't just go and get a cool drink or soft drink, or a plate of food or something. Here you do that. You go walk up and you go grab what you want to eat and you pay for it. So for me, that was a major change. Putting petrol in for myself, that was, I still today can't do it. I can do it, but I just refuse to do it. So my husband has to do it for me. And so there was a lot of things that I had to get used to really fast. And you know, one thing about New Zealand is the people here have their full independence, and where in South Africa things were really done for you.
Right.
So you've got to be fast. You've got to be on the ball with.
And be open to it as well.
Yeah.
Some people move over and they want what they had, but in their new country. And you really can't immigrate like that. You really have to be open to immersing yourself in and enjoying the culture that you've moved to.
Exactly.
And I think you were, from
I
what I know of you.
Yes.
So.
Oh, I love it a lot.
Once you make the move, you arrive in your new country, you have to stay somewhere. So where did you stay initially?
Well, my husband came first, so
okay.
I followed with my kids afterwards.
That's tough.
It was intense. It was probably the hardest thing I ever do.
Just the logistics, but also the emotional impact of immigrating and saying goodbye to everybody, but you don't have your person with you.
It was, and it was a hectic experience doing it by myself. So my husband, when he got here, he was lucky enough to find the house that we live in. And
okay, so where did he stay initially when he came over?
He stayed at the Avon Motel. So he stayed there for, I think it was about 2 weeks or something. And he was just house hunting, and we had already bought a car from South Africa. Organized that, we organized our bank accounts and everything.
We did that too before we even came over.
You gotta be prepared in advance.
So that temporary accommodation can get really expensive. So he's lucky he found a place in 2 weeks.
It did. But when we did get the place and we landed here, they only wanted us to move, I think it was the month after something. So we had to stay at the Avon Motel with my husband for some time. At least they were very accommodating, and it was nice. At least we could settle into our new country before. Yeah.
Shout out to the Avon Motel. Not sponsored. So when did you ship goods over, or did you just start from scratch?
We actually started from scratch.
Oh, okay.
With the clothes on our back, we literally came that way. We still have a lot of stuff in South Africa that needs to be shipped over. We haven't done that yet. I think it's more the whole wait for residency, get that behind you, and once you feel that you've settled now, then get the big container to come over.
So coming over with nothing, and I'm trying to play this out in my head. So you come to your new rental house.
Yep.
What did you sleep on? What did you eat on? How did you actually, did you have to shop immediately, or did you borrow things, or?
Well, my husband bought us blow-up mattresses, and I told him at least get us before we come, get us the mattresses, get us duvets and blankets and that. And we had that. We had the basic cutlery and all that, just enough to eat and that. And it was intense. Our next door neighbor, he borrowed us some lawn chairs just to sit on in the lounge, and a little camping table, and we had nothing.
It's really hard to replace everything because of the time and effort. It's not just a cost thing.
No.
We chose to ship everything over, and that's what I would advise. But, it's different for different people. We've helped a couple of people in moving over and seen how intense it is to replace a whole household's worth of stuff.
It is.
Because, like I said, it's not just the cost. It's you need to know where to shop. You need to... You want to feel you're getting the best price because it's expensive, and thinking of everything to replace. But at the same time, sometimes that can work better because you arrive, you buy your things, and then you can get settled. Whereas we had 12 weeks while our stuff was on a ship, and we had to borrow things and make do in the meantime.
That makes it really hard to, But
there's no right or wrong way. It's just what you choose.
I mean, we've been here for a year and a half now, almost a year and a half, and we're still not fully furnished. But we go as we go. Yeah,
and you don't want to just rush into it either.
Exactly. And op shops are the best place to just try and furnish your house with.
Second-hand shopping is my favorite.
I love it.
So is there anything that you did regret not shipping over?
To be honest with you, if I could have brought our instruments, my husband's guitar, my piano, and a lot more things, like now, I would have done it now. But now we have that long wait. Until we actually send the stuff over. So I do regret a lot of things. I do regret throwing away half of my clothes where I could have packed more, because I was actually, when I weighed my stuff, I was a little bit underweight.
You wish you just squeezed.
I know, if I just squeezed that last little bit of things.
So we're talking about furnishing a house and how you got your rental. Do you mind sharing how much you pay in rent? Because that varies so much in areas.
Yes, definitely. We pay $420 a week for rent, and I don't think it's bad.
No, in Auckland you'd be paying double that at least. Yeah.
And I mean, it included a fridge freezer, a microwave, the vacuum cleaner. So I think it was worth it.
Pretty good deal.
Yeah.
Does that include your utilities, or do you pay that?
No, we pay that. And I mean, this is a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom house. So
With heating, yeah.
Yes.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I think we really scored well.
So as part of your visa application, did you need to do an English test, and how did that go?
Oh, yes, I did.
You and your husband?
We both had to do an English test. It actually went really well. We passed the first time, but it was very nerve-wracking because I had someone who had this nervous cough on them that was sitting next to me.
Oh no.
And it was one of those written paper ones, and it was part of the listening test, and every time I'm trying to listen, this guy was like and it made it really hard. And but funny, I got a very high score for my listening, but I don't know, probably I used my
superpowers.
Yeah, to block him off.
It is nerve-wracking because all your dreams are hinging on it.
I know, and you know, if you fail that, you're going to pay the big money to redo it again, and you don't want to do that. You want to get it done and dusted the first time, and it's over. And it is nerve-wracking. It is stressful. You go there, you see all the other people, they stay more stressed, but we did practice beforehand. Yeah. You know, there's a lot of YouTube videos, there's a lot of stuff that you can practice.
And like tips and tricks for
exactly.
the test.
And we found the reading part the most trickiest part. Well, I did, not my husband. He found something else. But the speaking part was I aced pretty well.
You speak English very well. So was English your home language in South Africa?
Yes.
Okay, so that does help. So you didn't have to learn a new language?
No. Yeah, English was my home language. My husband's Afrikaans, but he's more English than Afrikaans. So
okay, so he's used to speaking English. And are the tests involved with the visa? Did you need to do medicals?
Yes, we did a medical too.
And how did you feel about that? How did that go?
That was also quite a nerve-wracking thing.
Because you don't know what they're going to find.
No,
like you feel healthy, but you just think, what's going to come up?
You always think the worst of something. And we did this back in South Africa. And I'll never forget, we had to go all the way to Pretoria, and it was so hot that day. And the kids were niggly in the car, and they didn't want to do the test, but they had to. It was stressful, but we did it.
It's expensive as well.
Oh, yeah. It is.
But worth it in the end.
It is worth it. It really is worth it.
Yeah. So you've made the move, you passed all your tests, got your visa, got your job, got your home.
Yeah.
That entails leaving family and friends.
Yeah.
And how was that? Like, were you close to your families? Who have you left behind?
That was really hard. It was, I think, the hardest part. I'm getting emotional.
Oh. It is hard. That's the thing, is there's loss that is unavoidable. You have so much to gain when you're immigrating, but that loss will live with you forever. And you just have to find a way to live around it.
Yeah.
You don't just get over it.
No. Well, my husband's gran passed away. It was probably about a month back.
Before you moved? Or
no,
a month
now.
Right.
Now. So we got to be there via WhatsApp call. So my sister-in-law held the phone and we watched it to be a part of it. But it was sad because, you know, it's not just like get in the car and go.
Yeah. And
that makes it hard. It makes it hard because we were very close to both sides of the family, my in-laws and my parents. And I think the hardest part was for me is the day my dad came to try and say goodbye to me at the airport, he was stuck in probably the worst traffic ever, thanks to load shedding. And it was so intense that he couldn't say goodbye. He couldn't. And I hadn't seen my dad, I think, for a whole year prior to that. So that made it very hard that I couldn't say goodbye to my dad. But luckily I'll see them soon again. I saw my in-laws last year.
It really helps when they can come and visit.
It is. Yeah. But it really is an emotional thing to, you know, families over there, you here, and...
Yeah. And taking your children away from the grandparents.
Oh, that is hard for them. Oh,
it's for them and for the grandparents.
It is.
And you feel really guilty.
I know. And we don't really have family here. I've got a cousin that lives here, but he stays in Wellington, so it's not that we often will see each other. We haven't seen each other yet. But other than that, my family is all in South Africa.
And your friends become your family.
I know. They become your family, yes.
So how did you find making friends? Was that easy for you? Did you find it difficult?
No, I love the people. Yeah, I think I don't know if it's because of the small town where everyone is so close, or if it's just the Kiwis that are just really friendly people. They are amazing.
Good.
And I find it very easy to, you know, to make those friends, to keep that connection with friends, and there's never ever that, okay, you must go now.
That's good. And your kids have found it easy to make friends?
Yes, they have found it easy.
Good.
I mean, back in South Africa, we homeschooled our kids for 2 years, and they really had no one. So now my kids have that opportunity to have friends. They go out to the park with their friends. They do things together where we didn't do before. So,
and that's something that parents worry about big time. How are my kids going to handle this move? Are they going to be okay? Did you worry about that before coming over?
Yeah.
And they're fine.
Exactly.
And 99% of the time they're fine. So if that's one of your big worries for your kids, don't worry so much. They'll be fine. Kids are so resilient.
Oh, they are. They're amazing. And they adapt so fast. My kids have never ever looked back and said, can we go back? They never said, oh, I can't cope in the country, or things is different. They've made New Zealand their house.
And how were they before you moved over? Were they like, why do we have to move? Or were they open to the adventure?
Oh, they were so open, because we would literally live on the TV looking at YouTube videos, your YouTube videos always, and then all these other ones on, definitely, and all the YouTube videos on New Zealand, and we'd show them on the internet, where is New Zealand, and make them excited for them. We'd really like get them excited. When we packed, they helped. When we went to go buy clothes for New Zealand, they chose.
I think that's so helpful, is when you tell your kids, we're moving away, you're not going to see your friends, you're not going to be in this house, you're not going to be with family.
Yeah.
You're basically showing them, or all they can see is all the things they're going to lose.
Yeah.
So what you did is really important, is to show them what they can stand to gain and what their new life can look like.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then they're not seeing this void of loss, they're seeing what's in it for me kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
that's
well
true.
done. And that probably helped with them to settle, to see some familiarity, like, oh, I've seen this loads of time on YouTube, and now I'm seeing it in real life.
That was the one thing that got my daughters pretty excited, is, oh, we've seen Mount Taranaki, we want to go and like actually see it. And for them, like, to be here and actually see the things that we spoke about, and that was something that made them stick.
So awesome to have the resources. I mean, we moved over in 2011 and YouTube was a thing, but nothing like it is today.
Yeah, and how it's grown.
Yeah, we used to watch, we found videos of the neighborhood we're moving to, and someone had filmed like a drive around, and we used to watch this and look at the weather and look at the houses and look at and now there's just so much more. So.
There is.
So your kids have settled, and that's been fine. You've settled pretty well, haven't you?
Ah, yes, I have.
Has there been some homesickness?
In the beginning, like everyone always says, immigrating is like a roller coaster. The first year, well, the first few months you step into it,
holiday.
it's honeymoon.
Yeah.
And then when you realize that
this is it.
Yeah. You've got to do everything. You're responsible for everything. You've got to do it. Then you kind of take a bit of a dipper, and you forget about those days where life was maybe a bit easier, something like that, and then you pick up again, and then you're happy again. You're like, don't want to look back. So it is like a big roller coaster effect. That's what I think.
So you get your bouts of homesickness, but then they pass?
Yes. I think we're over it now. We had it, well, I had it last year a little bit. My kids a little, but not so bad. They weren't phased. They were more excited about their surroundings and everything around them and their new friends and that. My husband, he's never hit that roller coaster effect yet.
Well, we've been here 9 years, and I still get homesick for England, but it's not as frequent and it's not as bad. But also my husband hasn't. He just, when he left, he's over it. But that's how I felt when we left South Africa.
Yeah.
I was like, doors closed behind me.
Yeah.
And after moving to England, because we went from South Africa to England for 11 years and then New Zealand, I did have bouts of homesickness for South Africa.
Yeah.
And eventually that passed. So now when I experience it, I just think, well, I got over feeling homesick for South Africa, so hopefully eventually it'll pass. But it comes and goes, and it can take you out of the blue. You can just be like, why am I so ratty, or why do I feel so emotional? and then I'll be like, am I homesick? And then I'll burst into tears, and I didn't even realize I was homesick, but it was just kind of gnawing away.
It does do that. And I heard actually someone say, statistically wise, women are more prone to being homesick than men in general with regarding to immigration.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And a lot of people we've spoken to, their wives are the ones that, I don't want to say battle with immigration, but battle
It affects them more.
Exactly, it affects them the most.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So when you are homesick, or when you have your niggles, what is it that you miss? Besides people, I'm assuming people, I mean, that's the obvious one, but is there anything you miss?
I think it's silly things.
Well, it's always the silly things. For me, it's the silly things. Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's going to sound silly, but it's like certain foods.
Yeah.
You know,
that's a huge thing. That's not silly at all.
Yeah. Like you sleep at night time and you have a dream about cream soda, and you wake up and you're like, there's no cream soda. Yeah. Or the Omar
It's expensive. You can't get it here. There are South African shops, but it's expensive.
Or like one thing I do tend to miss is dentistry.
Dentistry?
How much cheaper it is.
So expensive here. Stay on top of it. I know it's expensive, but go to your checkups.
No, yes.
It's so expensive.
Oh, yeah, it's... Ooh.
Yeah, there's little things that remind you, you are not where you came from. It's different here.
Yeah, and you know, it's little things like that I'll have a good giggle about and be like, oh, I missed that, or oh, I missed that. But other than that,
I'm the same. It's the silly things, and then you'll be like, why am I being such a sap about this silly thing? But it gets to you, like, because those are the little things that make up your life.
It is,
and you've lost what you had before.
Yeah.
And it can just be in the little things, but don't feel silly if you feel homesick over little things. They matter.
They do matter.
So what are some of the similarities in New Zealand to South Africa, and what are the things that are just so different?
Oh, similarities. Oh, that's a tricky one. I don't really find many similarities.
Really?
No. Different would definitely be, like mentioned before, is going into a restaurant and no one people do serve you, but you get up, you get your own drinks out the fridge, and usually you get at a coffee shop, you'll get your own little snacks and you'll sit down.
And you go and pay at the till afterwards.
Yeah.
Right.
Or like if you go to Pack and Save or Countdown and you pack your own bags. You take your trolley bag.
We got used to packing our own groceries in England.
So you guys
moved over there and I was standing there and my stuff was piling up and I was just like, oh, I have to pack it myself. Yes. So we were used to it. So that was new for you.
That was new. Also, like in South Africa, you would use your own card. Well, you give them the card and they would swipe it for you, and the only thing you would do is put your PIN in and they do the rest.
And here
you have to learn how to use their little machine, and you've got to do it yourself. So that is a big change, and there's no potholes here. Or it's just me, I haven't seen potholes.
Yeah, they do really look after the roads, at least in our area.
They like really look after the roads, yeah. They don't stop looking after them. So that was a lot of different things, you know, and... Oh, there's probably quite a few more that I just can't think of, but there's a lot of little different things here that's different to South Africa.
It just reminds you, like, you're not, well, I don't want to say you're not home, because this is home now, but it's those reminders. When we first moved to England, I remember walking down the road and smelling the exhaust fumes, and they smelled different, and it's just this constant, like, everything's different.
Well, one thing my kids had to get used to was the whole daylight savings, because we don't get that.
In South Africa,
and that was hard. And you try and tell your child, listen, it's 8 o'clock at night, it's bedtime, and they're like, no mom, it's not, like the sun is still out.
Try that in England when 10 o'clock at night it's still light. It's like blackout blinds for the wind. That's definitely that's something that's hard for anybody, even if you're used to it.
Yes. And that's something that we really had to get used to, but this will be my second summer here, so I wouldn't say we are used to it. We still probably in for a big surprise.
But there's such a big time difference between New Zealand and South Africa if you're wanting to call people, and then daylight savings happens and you're like, are we now 11 hours, are we 13, are we 12, like what's going on?
And you've got to try and change that around, and
then England kind of does this, we swap over, and it's a disaster. I don't think we should have daylight savings.
No, I agree. I agree with you on that.
In planning on moving to New Zealand, you must have had some hopes or some idea of what you wanted your life to be like. Has that met your expectations or lived up to your hopes?
Actually, yes, it really has. I didn't expect, I did plan that when I come here, I would also eventually work. I'd finish my novel. There was a lot of things that I wanted to do, and I didn't really, I know it's silly little things. Now we'll talk about the silly little things again, but that when moving here, it has actually lived up to my expectations a lot. And
good.
Yeah.
And your kids, has it met their expectations?
Oh, a lot.
So there wasn't anything that they saw online that they're like, why don't we get to do that?
No.
Good.
I think also coming from kids who were homeschooled and didn't actually go to parks or go walk around the yard, or not yard, but sorry,
on the streets. It's not
yes.
safe.
Yeah. But I mean, for them, it really was a big thing, and was an enjoyable thing that my kids could actually go to the parks and that.
Yeah.
And so it lived up to theirs a lot.
That's good.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you've struggled with, or that your kids or your husband have struggled with since moving here, that they've just been like, this is really a sticking point that I'm going to have to get used to or adjust to?
I would say probably the busyness of life.
Okay. So there's a faster pace here
I feel so.
Tiny South Taranaki.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, I feel it. I know. It's a tiny little town, but for me, life goes like this.
Don't move to England.
And no. It's just like, we're very used to we were very laid back at home. Things were a bit more chilled, and I also blame that on us being very home confined.
Yeah.
But now life doesn't stop, and it just goes and goes, and you can't really plan for the next day, and it's just intense.
It's a season as well, because your kids are a little bit older now, and they have more activities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which makes it more challenging, and there's always something. There's always something. But I love it.
Yeah, don't move to Auckland either. I don't think you cope.
No.
That's why we left Auckland.
Because of the busyness.
Oh, yeah, to get this slower pace of life is why we left
This
there.
slower pace.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, I'll stick to my little town.
Is there anything you've particularly enjoyed where you're like, this is heaven, this is why I moved here?
Yes.
Tell me.
The fact that I can live by the ocean, by the mountain, and by the city.
Isn't it amazing?
Town. I love it. I mean, in Randfontein, South Africa, Randfontein, we were about a 7 hours drive to Durban, 13 hours drive to George, or maybe a bit more to go to Cape Town. And that's something that you would do once a year. Maybe.
Go see the ocean. It's a big deal.
And now we're a stone throw away to the ocean. If we don't feel like doing that, we can go up the mountain. If we don't feel like doing that, there's the most beautiful lakes and other natural things that you can go to. Or you can just go to New Plymouth down there, or Wanganui up there. I love it.
That's something that I particularly enjoy as well, is the natural beauty. And I could never live 7 hours from the beach.
Oh, no, neither. No, this is
Never
amazing. Yeah.
I wanted to ask how healthcare is different, because healthcare is such a big issue or topic.
Yeah.
How is it different to South Africa? How have you found the healthcare services and costs and all of that?
Well, I find it to be much better. Taking on that, you don't pay for children, I think, up until the age of 18, I think. 16? Yeah, 18? To go to...
I don't even know, and I've got 2 kids.
To go to the doctors. And, I just find that it's a bit more, maybe organised a little bit.
Okay.
And I just find it really good. In the hospitals over here, the public hospitals look like our private hospitals back home.
But then you don't pay for your procedures.
No, and it's just they are so beautiful and it's unbelievable. And I mean, if you go to A&E, you're gonna wait 5, 6, 7 hours. You're really gonna wait. But you can guarantee you're going to, when you walk in there, they know what they're gonna do. They're very good. They are so kind to the kids. They are unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't miss a dentist appointment here, like being a child. They phone you up randomly. They track you. And they're like, your child needs to go see the dentist. And that was a big shock also for me, because in South Africa,
it's up to you.
It's up to you to make an appointment to go to the dentist, or it's up to you to get your child's shots done. Over here, it's not. They phone you until you've done it.
I mean, it's still your choice in the end.
Exactly.
But yeah, I appreciate that as well. Because you can just forget and you think, oh, I've missed their immunisation date.
Exactly. Or my kid hasn't gone to the dentist for 6, 7 months. Should have gone. But here they actually say, hey, your child's got to go and you can come again. And I found, the dentistry plus the doctors over here that we have, they're really friendly, they're kind. nice people,
Yeah.
and I love the healthcare.
And not having to pay medical aid every month.
Wow, what a big chunk, you know, in
Yeah.
South Africa.
So I assume you haven't chosen to take up private medical insurance in New Zealand. You've just been on the public system.
Yeah, we've been on the public system. My husband, well, obviously with work, he's got it.
Oh, okay.
But it was something that my kids don't need it because they get free medical. So it's
We haven't
pointless.
needed it. We've had a number of things. Grant broke his foot. The boys have had to have impacted teeth extracted.
Yeah.
I had a skin biopsy, and like all of that was done efficiently. We didn't pay for it.
Yeah.
We haven't felt like we needed
Also,
private insurance.
No, and I mean, if you look at the public hospitals here, they're really beautiful. They're unbelievable. I mean, you know, when you think public, people immediately want to step back, but it's really nice. And I don't see the point of taking out like a health insurance. I find it a bit pointless.
And speaking of costs, if you're comfortable and if you know it, do you mind sharing maybe just a ballpark of how much emigrating has cost?
Oh.
Not emotional cost, actual money.
I think probably about a bit more than 250,000 rand. Probably, most probably, if you take them from when we started up until now, between 250 to 300,000. That sounds a lot, but remember we have started from scratch.
Yeah, we moved in 2011, like I said, and we spent about 20 to 25,000 pounds when we made the move then, and we didn't use an immigration consultant. But I do have a video on all the different things to budget for and why immigration is so expensive, because it's so many different things that you're forking out for constantly.
Yeah.
So was some of your costs spread over those 5 years or 2 years after you decided?
Well, once we had signed with our agents, from then till now, it's like that's what it's spread out for.
Hemorrhaging money for 5 years.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and some of your experiences. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure some of our viewers out there who are watching and hoping to make the move will appreciate hearing your story as well.
Well, thanks very much for letting me be on your vlog, Jen.
I appreciate it.